and who always has your best interests and has your back. I have your back, I have your heart, and I have every other part of your body. And I have every other part of your body. And I have every other part of your body. And I have every other part of your body. And I have every other part of your body. And I have every other part of your body. And I have every other part of your body. And I have every other part of your body.
Since Trump and Vance proudly announced that they want their party to control women's bodies, anything they say can be used to highlight their march towards getting their hands on as many women as possible.
Things that almost nobody in this room wants, who I think 85–90% of the country doesn't want if they actually.
I absolutely agree.
But the transgender thing is incredible. Think of it. Your kid goes to school and comes home a few days later with an operation. The school decides what's going to happen with your child. And you know, many of these childs 15 years later say, what the hell happened? Who did this to me?
When you have to present obviously made-up scenarios like that to combat the response to your fascist goals, it's pretty clear that desperation is setting in. I'm resisting the urge to break down just how clownish that statement was, but I don't even think the people that follow him believe that childs, as the stable genius put it, are given operations between history class and PE. He's just trying to dig his way out of the enormous hole that he's put himself in on abortion rights.
What's the Trump administration going to do when it comes to IVF if you get elected?
Right. Well, as you know, I was always for IVF right from the beginning. As soon as we heard about it, it's fertilization and it's helping women and men and families, but it's helping women able to have a baby. Some have great difficulty, and a lot of them have been very happy with the results, as you know. And what we're doing, and we're doing this because we just think it's great, and we need great children, beautiful children in our country. We actually need them. And we are going to be, under the Trump administration, we are going to be paying for that treatment. So we are paying for that treatment.
All
or
Americans
we're going,
who want it?
For all Americans that get it, all Americans that need it. So we're going to be paying for that treatment, or we're going to be mandating that the insurance company pay.
So either the government will pay for it or the insurance companies
Under
will
a
cover.
mandate.
Seems pretty clear that Trump is throwing anything against the wall without thought, in hopes of taking some heat off of his positions against people's uteruses. If anything, this declaration illustrates how little thought he puts into really everything he says. He has no intention of implementing this. He's just hoping to get back to calling the vice president some names. So here are the hurdles he's never considered because he's clueless. Requiring insurers to pay would most likely mean passing laws in Congress or persuading a panel of experts to add IVF to a list of free preventative women's health services established by the Affordable Care Act, the health coverage law Mr. Trump tried to repeal. There's strike one, already highlighted by his own opposition to this declaration. But here's more. Having the government pay directly for IVF would mean creating essentially a single-payer healthcare system for a single condition. The approach would require Congress to fund a new division of federal government to oversee the program. The president cannot do this on his own, is what Elena Saganikoff, director of the Women's Health Policy Program at KFF, a health research nonprofit, said. You need to have federal funds to do this. Congress needs to appropriate money. When asked how Mr. Trump would implement this policy, a campaign spokeswoman, Caroline Leavitt, did not provide any details, saying simply that the former president supports universal access to contraceptives and IVF. Perfect. Go into panic mode and present a policy to take the heat off of your ass, only to discover that you and your party aren't even in favor of any form of universal health care that would make anything like this possible because it doesn't help your wealthy donors siphon even more money out of the government. This is what having zero principles or thought process looks like. And this is what a yes man that blindly follows behind Donald Trump looks like.
Well, obviously, it's something that is possible to support, depends on the details. At the end of the day, what Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have been saying is very clear. They want to make sure that IVF is available to every family that needs to take advantage of it. Because, yes, having families, building families in America is critical to the future of our success as a nation. And so I think it's something that members on both sides of the aisle will try to find a way to make sure that we can get there. We'll see what the details look like. But at the end of the day, the core issues facing the American people are the cost of food and housing. Donald Trump has the recipe to make it better for the lives of the American people.
It's obviously possible to Byron Donalds because Trump said so. Now, let's just gloss over that little problem when it comes to the details. We'll ignore those later when we push for a nationwide ban on reproductive and healthcare freedoms. Because his main purpose is to simply say Trump will solve all your problems that he makes sure remain unsolved so that he can campaign on them and not solve them later. But they want you to know, this whole idea that Republicans are against things like birth control and access to IVF, that's coming out of nowhere.
Is birth control part of that policy, empowering women to be able to make those decisions before they get pregnant?
Look, obviously people need to be able to make those decisions. I don't think that I know any Republican, at least not a Republican with a brain, that's trying to take those rights away from people. But I think it goes deeper than that.
I mean, I could provide a list for you if you wanted.
Well, okay, not anybody I talk to, Jake.
All Republicans, to my knowledge, support IVF in the Congress, and there's no state that prohibits or regulates IVF in a way that makes it inaccessible. It is expensive for many couples, I understand that. So it's something I'm open to, that most Republicans would be open to. I think we'd have to evaluate the fiscal impact, but in principle, supporting couples who are trying to use IVF or other fertility treatments, I don't think is something that's controversial at all.
For some reason, the left has tried to put a narrative out there that Republicans aren't for IVF or not for fertilization treatment. That's absolutely not true. We've never been in that position. There's never been a vote taken on that.
There's never been a vote taken on that.
Well, 2 months ago, you voted against a Senate bill that would have protected and expand IVF access, and it would have mandated that some coverage was covered by health insurance plans. If that bill came back to the floor, would you now support it? Is that what you're saying?
You mean Chuck Schumer's ridiculous messaging bill?
So no.
That requires fertility treatment for men who think they're women? That was slapped together in a summer in which he slapped together a bunch of other bills?
So there was a vote taken on that. It just conflicted with their commitment to culture wars against Americans that they hate.
This should have been the easiest vote in the world. IVF is so important to so many millions of people to be able to have a child, but they have the hard right pushing them. And so they are afraid to say what the right thing to do is. And they try to say, well, we had a better idea. Well, we gave them a chance. We said, just vote to get on the bill and we'll discuss it. They all voted no because things like people like the Heritage Foundation, the Susan B. Anthony League, even the Southern Baptist Convention, they've come out against IVF. But it's not what they say, Erin, it's what they do. All but 2 voted no.
All this talk about saying something and actually meaning it once you're elected is too much trouble for Donald Trump's Republican Party. He really thought that just because he declared his self-inflicted problems over with, that the country would just accept his proclamation.
I think the abortion issue has been taken down many notches. I don't think it's a big factor anymore, really. But that issue is very much subdued. Yeah, thank you.
Consider the fact that he and the rest of his party are running from and towards the issue with irrational and misleading claims in hopes of cleaning up the political mess that he created. It's not looking as subdued as he once hoped. In fact, it's looking more energetic than ever.
I gotta tell you, I love looking at this crowd. You know why? Because I see young women, I see women of different generations, I see women of different colors, of different ethnicities. I see men who are allies. Freedom is not a partisan issue. I'm a registered Republican. I supported every Republican presidential candidate until 2016 because principles matter more than party.
Today's kickoff event is practically happening in Trump's backyard. What's the message from the Harris-Walz campaign?
Well, Anna, good to be with you. I hope you can hear me. It is just getting started here behind me.